Good morning. Welcome to Coffee with Tina. Happy Friday. I am Tina Swimmen, founder of One Mom's Battle, author of Divorcing a Narcissist. Good morning, Jenny from Oklahoma. How are you guys doing with the cold? I can't believe the weather everywhere. Super sad to watch. I know many of you have been affected greatly, and I'm thinking my microphone is not on. Hold on one second. Technical difficulties. We're up. Okay, hopefully that'll be better. Good morning. Happy Friday. I'm going to jump right into the questions. Let me know where you are chiming in from. I see Jenny's in Oklahoma City, but I love seeing where everyone's at. So I have a new friend. Look at my friend Sherry sent me the sweetest little gifts this week. So thank you, Sherry. Love my lemons. So the number one question that came through, or not the number one question, a question that came through that we're going to get to first. What can I do if the narcissist is only paying half of the court-ordered child support? Good morning from Rochester. Good morning. Oh, hello, Tammy Marie. Very first time. Good morning, Nicole from Florida and Karen from Chicago. Child support and the narcissist. I know we all have a story about this because, it's kind of Wisconsin. I used to go up to Wisconsin Dells a lot when I lived in Illinois as a small child. I know you guys don't like us. Wisconsin does not like Illinois invading. I get it. I can imagine. So child support, I was telling somebody yesterday because she was sharing with me that her ex is, filing for modification, wants more time, and I knew immediately that it was related to child support because whenever there's an increase in support, they want that button, that money button for the narcissist. It's easy for us to say, oh, they're all the same. Yeah, at a very 101 level, there's some underlying issues, but I'm really big on profiling the person you're up against because there are so many intricacies that you need to know about. It's something whenever I'm talking to a coaching client, and it's what I'm training my, the coaches in my new program is you are constantly, first of all, you're scanning their paperwork to, be profiling them. And I actually have a sheet that I use to profile the narcissist that they are up against because all of those details matter, knowing where the buttons are, knowing where their triggers are, knowing when to push them or when to stay away from them. They are all the same at a base level, but they're all incredibly different and you have to go deeper. Anytime you're in battle against someone, you want to know, whether it's a sports team, they want to know where the strong players are, who to watch out for, who to keep the ball away from. If we're talking about going into war, you want to know everything about your opponent. And unfortunately, I was actually saying to Glenn last night, my husband, I think I was talking to my sister about it. When you are, the first couple of years in this battle, I know for the first 2 years, I was a mess. I was in no place to be profiling the other person, because I was still in that fog, that fight or flight mode. And when I started realizing that, watching the court, watching other attorneys in court, that this is about strategy, this is about developing a game plan, and there's not a lot of room for emotions. That's kind of where I shifted. And, that's the goal, is to get to that place. So while they are all very different, they all have one button that is the same, and that is the financial button. It is very rare that I come across a narcissist or a sociopath whose biggest button isn't financial and image, or, victim card, or whatever it is, but finances, that is their big button that they pretty much all share. And so we have to know that. And I learned, good morning, Janelle. I love seeing your name. I love seeing all of your names. So when, it was a couple years into my battle before I realized that his financial button was directly wired to my biggest button, which was my kids. And so anytime I pushed that button, he would retaliate by coming after my daughters. And so I got to the point where, and I've used the terminology many times, where I would truly rather eat top ramen 3 meals a day uncooked if I, than allow this person to terrorize my children. I will be the target any day if you leave my girls alone. And so it was a couple years into it before I really grasped that concept and stopped holding him accountable for child support. And I know, because I've been there, I've been in the place where, I was absolutely dependent on that support, and there is no shame in that. Outside of all of this garbage, yeah, these people should be held accountable for the child support. It's, that money is for their kids, but they aren't capable of doing the right thing. And so it's a different mindset to get into. It's what Dr. Ramani talks about, radical acceptance. That's where it comes into play here, very heavily, is, if you are expecting them to do the right thing, you're setting yourself up for disappointment. You aren't managing your expectations appropriately. And so, you've just got to know that when you push that button, depending on how hard you push it, there is going to be fallout from that. And it usually involves the kids. So, I learned, after a couple of years, that my energy was best spent rebuilding my life. And my goal was to get out from under him financially. Because when I was, it's Dina. Hello, good morning. I've been saying her name wrong for a long time. And good morning, Dina. So, my goal has always been, once I really started understanding this from a strategic angle, is to get out from under that control he had over me. In my marriage, a huge part of his control was financials. I wouldn't have described it that way back then, because I had access to money. It wasn't like he gave me a $200 allowance and I had to make it last for a month, because his image was so tied into the lifestyle that we had, but so I had more resources than most people. I call it my fake fancy life. It wasn't real. He was behind the scenes, borrowing from one to pay another, taking out unbelievable loans that I had no idea about. So there were all kinds of shenanigans going on behind the scenes, but he controlled me through finances. I had, good morning, Veronica. I had access to nothing, not our credit report, everything was kept from me. And so now looking back, I see the financial abuse, and then once, the post-separation abuse started, once we separated, it became extreme. And so my goal from day one was to rebuild my life and to get out from under that control that he had over me. And there was some strategy involved. I couldn't have predicted the way that it would play out exactly, but I knew that if I allowed that arrears balance to just keep growing and growing and growing and not hold him accountable, that at some point it would catch up to him or it would become leverage for me. And so in my situation, take your power back, don't stay in the dark. Yes. It's my goal was to get out from under that. And his arrears balance grew to $100,000. And that, when it affected him, when he lost his passport, when it was affecting his job because he couldn't travel internationally, that's where the tide shifted and I had the power. And, I can't give you legal advice. Your attorney is in control and I'm not qualified to give you legal advice, but I can share my story and my perspective and at some point, and nobody can predict how it'll play out for you, but you have to know that somewhere in that equation, that financial control will become your leverage a lot of the time. And so for me, it was, having my attorney negotiate, and this is not something that you can propose, any of us can propose, because the court system does not like us, bartering, exchanging money for children's lives. That's a huge no-no. But we were able to, because of the way my case had played out, we were able to allow him to walk away from that debt to secure my children's safety. And so, victim of extreme financial abuse. Thanks for joining us. Is it Aisha? Isha? I don't want to mispronounce your name. I do that a lot with people. So, but yeah, it helps to have an attorney that is familiar with narcissistic abuse. So many of them use it on their website just to get traffic, high conflict divorce, all of that. But what I find is that a lot of them are highly narcissistic themselves, or they don't really get it. But that's a whole nother topic. So, the question was what to do if they're only paying half the support. Unfortunately, right now in the court system, what I'm seeing is that, Aisha, well, good morning. And I'm sorry for what you're going through. And I'm sorry that you have to join us for this. Not where you should be on a Friday morning. Good morning, Gigi. I became a Gigi again this week. I have a new grandson. I'm so excited. He's just so adorable. But, the courts are handing out victim cards right now due to the pandemic. And so even if your ex has not been affected by the pandemic financially, how do you prove it? All they have to do is say they have been, and the courts are giving everyone a lot of grace. And so right now, it's hard enough to hold these people responsible for their financial obligations on a normal day, but you add in the pandemic and the mess that is the family court system right now, and it's just an absolute nightmare. So it's hard, if you are absolutely dependent on that money, no shame in that. You have to utilize the services in your area. Whether it's like here in California, I just turned everything over to the Department of Child Support Services, who are an absolute joke. That agency is just, I have nothing good to say. But I didn't want to be the one tasked with collecting from him. So I gave them all of that energy to deal with. And it's a hard situation, but I can't encourage you enough. Set a goal to get out from under that. And then if the support comes in, it's a bonus. But if it doesn't, you're not turning over your power. And I think that's what it comes down to. Gigi is saying my ex committed tax fraud, claimed children on his taxes when they lived with me. now claiming pauper due to his IRS seizures. I cannot believe my ex has not been busted by the IRS. When we got his paycheck stubs, he was claiming 99 dependents so that he didn't have to have taxes taken out of his paycheck. And this is a person who's making six figures. He when he's working, he does really well. And there were times where he was working multiple jobs for competing companies, making a lot of money without any of the companies knowing that he was working for the other companies. Super scam artist. And all that money, nothing was being paid to the IRS. I think he admitted on his last income and expense declaration that he hadn't filed taxes since 2009. I don't know how these people get away with what they do. It's still, as much as I know about this disorder, it baffles me to this day. But I do believe it catches up to them in a variety of ways. And I always say, we've already won. We have the ability to give and receive love, to have authentic relationships and connections with people, to have authentic bonds with our kids, to show up every day and be real. And I cannot imagine living the way they do. Just what a dark, empty, pathetic existence. What is the point in life if you can't truly connect with another human or give or be loved? So I like to keep that in mind, especially during the dark times, that their karma is they're living it every day. And sometimes, they have the mask on tighter and it doesn't drop, but someone says, how do I get a consult with you? I filled out the forms. All you have to do, right now, I'm still accepting new clients. I'm kind of starting to taper down on that because I have all of these coaches that I have trained to do what I do, and I'm going to be referring people out, but you can still get on my calendar. I'm just booked out until sometime in March right now, but you just go to the One Mom's Battle website and click consultation, and scroll down to the very bottom and it'll give you a link to my calendar. And you can just book an appointment right on there. The forms are part of that, but you have to actually go forward and book the appointment to do it. So I love the comments going in the sidebar. I never claim to have all the answers, but so many people come to us from different perspectives and experience on different topics under this whole umbrella. And so this community is a wealth of information. Okay, the second question is, at what point do you give up on mediation and file for divorce? I wanted this to be low conflict. So I talk a lot about mediation. I have a different perspective than most people do in this industry, in this world of narcissistic abuse. I believe that mediation can be incredibly beneficial if you are managing your expectations appropriately. If you're going into mediation and expecting the narcissist to do the right thing, to be honest, to be fair, you aren't managing your expectations appropriately. I see mediation as an opportunity to see the other side's cards. I see mediation as an opportunity to practice presenting my side of the story to a neutral third party and gauge their reaction. I see it as a way to desensitize myself to the process, kind of like training wheels for family court. But I don't have faith in the process, the outcome, unless the times that I see mediation being successful with a narcissist are when you are willing to give them everything, which is usually the money, the home, the whatever it is, and they feel like they've won. I do see a problem with that, and I watch it play out many times where, we're projecting our own honest traits onto someone who doesn't deserve it. And so one scenario that I've seen play out in mediation is you let them win. And when it comes to the financials, and you get your children and they're safe and they're secure, and the other person has everything they wanted, and then the next day they file for a modification of custody. And in a lot of states, they can do that. Here in California, you could probably walk out of the courtroom at noon and go file for modification at 2 o'clock. And so now, you've got people who have given away everything and to secure their children's safety, and now that's in jeopardy also. Plus, you don't have money to fight. And so that's where a really skilled attorney comes into play. I don't have a lot of faith in the in mediation with a narcissist. You want to be so careful. So managing your expectations and being realistic about the process. I have an online course for mediation where I walk people through all of it. And what I just shared right now is kind of the outline of a lot of it. It's an art to go in there. It's almost like co-parenting therapy. Or let's see, Tina, with everything going to mediation, how do I get a feel for the mediator? How do I get to know these judges if I can't watch other hearings? I'll try to come back to that one. It's like with co-parenting therapy. It's like with any new professionals coming onto your case. I use it a lot of times as an opportunity to desensitize myself, to practice keeping in mind these people don't know either of you. And for all they know, you could be a very dysfunctional person. And so, a lot of us, we have that light bulb moment that this person's a narcissist, and we want to share with everyone, aha, you're a bad person. I knew it. And here's proof. And here's what, we end up looking like the crazy ones when we try to do that. So just be really careful with all of that. Gigi, I can imagine your case just from the little bit I know. Gigi is notorious at her attorney's office for her situation. Yeah, and hope, and if anyone has recommendations on attorneys that we should have in our database, please, by all means, send them to us. You can send it to Friends of OMB. So OMB, One Mom's Battle, Friends of OMB at gmail.com. I like for you to get their permission first, because there are a lot of attorneys or therapists who do not want to be promoted for high conflict situations. They have a couple in the office, that's all they want. And so if you do have an attorney who is open to being listed on our database, the website for that is friendsofomb.com. I think that's, or you can just go to our website at One Mom's Battle and click Friends of OMB. And so if you email me their info, I need name, address, phone number, website, email address, and their photo for our database. But my goal is to really work to get that database solid, and with, I only put people in who have been referred from those of us on the battlefield. So an attorney can't contact me and say, hey, I want to be listed. It doesn't work that way. So that's kind of my overall, mediation. Make sure you're managing your expectations appropriately and practicing radical acceptance. And if you need extra support on that process, my online course is at One Mom's Battle. Next question is, how do you handle the lies? How can I prove he's lying? Gigi, I sent you. I responded, Gigi. I had her send me check your email, because I did respond to you. I would love to have you in my coach class. I think you are brilliant and have so much to offer people. So how do you handle the lies? How can I prove he's lying? My personal opinion of that, from both going through this in the court system and watching so many other people, is, my scale of what is relevant when it comes to honesty and all of that is much different than the scale that the courts are using. It's probably the only branch of law of court where perjury doesn't really seem to matter. I actually have seen judges quote that everyone lies. That's not true. That's a huge part. That mentality is the huge it's a huge part of what's wrong with the system. Is, when somebody is not credible, is not honest, that should be a huge red flag to the judge, because so much of family court is he said, she said. And so if you've got someone who is dishonest, how are you taking in the he said or the she said part of that equation? And, I know for my own case, when things shifted was when my ex lied to the judge. It didn't seem to matter that he lied in every declaration. He lied, constantly, but the judge took it personal when he lied directly to him, which is maddening, but whatever. It played out the way it was supposed to. So I guess I would say, how big are the lies? Are they things that would really matter? Because where I feel that I struggled in the beginning for the first few years was choosing my battles wisely. If you're somebody who prides yourself on truth and honesty and justice and, all of that, I don't find those things coming from the court system. I always say, if you're looking for justice or validation in the court system, you're looking in the wrong places. If it's a lie that is affecting the children, that's a different story. I would personally probably put my energy there. And, lies are usually unraveled organically. I hired a PI at multiple times to show that he was lying. Sometimes that's difficult if you have somebody, let's say, who drinks behind closed doors or, whatnot. Good morning from Indiana. You just, so I guess my question would be, how big are the lies? Do they affect the kids? Because that's really what the courts should be looking at. And Gigi's right. They usually don't care about lies. The situation that I pointed out where my ex lied directly to the judge, it was an extreme lie that we caught him in red-handed. And the story was, he was taking my daughters somewhere where it would have caused problems, and he knew that. So he was lying and saying that he took them to the Bay Area where he lived, and he went through this entire scenario on the stand with the judge. And it was, I picked them up at this time. We drove to San Francisco at this time. We went to a park. We went to Starbucks on Saturday morning. He went through this long lie thing. And then I remember kind of going, "That's not true, Your Honor." And the judge said, "Does anyone have proof? Does anyone have GPS that can prove this?" And I was like, "I actually do." I had bought a phone, which, do not do what I do unless you have your attorney's approval, because I don't think it would have played out very well for me in other courtrooms. But I had my daughters back then, it wasn't common to have tracking on a phone, and their flip phone had tracking. And so I had a detailed report printed out that I had not even shared with minors counsel. So the judge called a break. Minors counsel went out and reviewed all of the GPS. And so I busted him in the middle of court that he was, had fabricated a huge story. That lie I got full legal custody that day, and my kids were not allowed to have overnight visits anymore at that point. That was huge. That was a huge turning point in my case. And so, some lies they do care about, but in that moment, I really think it was because the judge was lied to. All of a sudden, he took offense. His own narcissism or ego got in the middle of it, and it became personal, which, it's a lot of what I work with on my clients. How do you make this personal for your attorney, for, anybody in your case? And there's an art to that. And if I could give a one size fits all approach for that, I'd give it to you in a heartbeat. It's such an individual, it's strategy mindset versus emotions. And a huge hurdle is getting people involved in your case to have an emotional tie-in to it. Like Gigi described in the comments, her attorney's office, this case stands out to them. It's been a learning experience for them. I guarantee you, her case will have, more eyes on it than the others in the firm, because the attorneys are trained to shut off their empathy switch. They have to survive. I fully understand why. When I have a different perspective, from being in my own case, but then two, from being an observer and an advocate in the court system and watching the things that judges and attorneys hear and see every day, I couldn't do it. I just couldn't. So I do have some compassion for the good ones who just get, suffer from compassion fatigue and get bogged down. There was a question I was going to get back to, and now I can't remember what it was. I'm so sorry. Okay, well, I don't remember what question it was, and it's gone now. So, all right, everybody, I actually have a class to teach right after this with my divorce coach training program students. Next week is technically our last week of the program. I am switching from 6 weeks to 8 weeks. We have discovered that there is so much in this program that there's no way to get it done in 6 weeks. So, but we're technically in our last week of the program. I will have amazing coaches to refer all of you to if you are interested in connecting with a coach through our program. Go to the Facebook page for the High Conflict Divorce Coach Certification Program. We're actually doing an amazing post-separation abuse campaign right now, and we would love you to submit. If you have, say a threat, something your ex said to you during the divorce process, the separation process, the post-separation abuse, submit it. Write it down on a piece of paper or make a sign. Take a photograph of it. Send it to postseparationabuse@gmail.com. And in your email, give us permission to use your photo. We are really, really, the entire year of 2021, we're going to be educating the general public and the courts that it does not take it only takes one person to create a high conflict situation. And we want to show them, using the words of the abuser, what post-separation abuse is. So if you're willing to participate, please, submit something. And Karen, yes, we've already have some people signed up for August. So yeah, send me an email or you can just go to the it's hcdivorcecoach.com, which stands for high conflict, hcdivorcecoach.com, and you can apply at the top for the program or for a scholarship spot. And I would love to have you in the program. All right, take care, everyone. Happy Friday. Have a great weekend.